There's other crazier things, man. I think that, so that was like by design though. There was the Robertson panel. So like there was this huge flyover of UFOs in 1952 of the White House in Washington, D.C., 2 weekends in a row. I mean, everybody, I think Time Magazine did something on it. It was fucking big, right? They said, oh no, we didn't send out any jets. Turns out they did. They couldn't catch these things. So 1952, huge flyover of DC, they hold a press conference. And they're like, basically, we don't know what these are, but they don't seem to pose a national security threat. That was like right? We don't know what these are, but they don't seem to pose a security threat. So then they did this study. I think it was called the Robertson panel. I'm terrible with this shit, but I think it's called the Robertson panel. And they determined that the UFOs might not pose a national security threat, but public interest in them might. So their job was to mystify the UFO topic in public, make fun of it.
Right. That's what Operation Blue Book did.
Oh, they totally dismissed it. Swamp gas comes from that.
What's fascinating is the man who was responsible for Project Blue Book was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and when he left Project Blue Book, he became the forefront UFO investigator. And said, I think that a lot of the things that I investigated turns out were real.
He felt guilt, right? He
really?
felt, yeah. I brought a magazine for you. I forgot to bring it.
When did he?
Too early.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was cool as shit,
Yeah.
He, just for people that don't know the basic of it, this guy was like astronomer, astrophysicist, I think astronomer. And man, he was involved with Project Blue Book, and he was realizing they're making him try to dismiss all this shit.
Yes, they were trying to find rational explanations for people seeing things that seemed preposterous.
And was it called London Committee or something? So basically they just were trying to make it go away.
We know that they have a history of doing this.
Yeah.
We know they have a history of actively trying to dismiss these stories.
Oh yeah, to the point where part of the operation, like you read about that church committee where they'll put people into communities to disrupt them. The words would be to shape the emerging narrative to this day. Now, why you want to shape it? Why would an intelligence agency want to shape this? Let's just get the information out there. I guess there's power in controlling the UFO narrative.
Is there also like this disdain for the intelligence of the average person? Is that part of it? That they're like, these fucking people don't need to know.
Well, if it's sitting on something really fucking, why would they want to give that up, man?
Well, if they do believe that most, I think, politicians and people that get into great positions of power start to believe that they're better than the average person. Some cops have that. They have a us versus them mentality. And I definitely think that lawmakers and, and the like would have that as well, especially people involved in intelligence agencies. I mean, that's part of the gig, is that you have access to stuff that the average person does not, because you can handle it. And you're trained this way, and this is how you behave, and so that information comes along that's really fucking wild. Like there's this interdimensional spacecraft that can just appear over the ocean and disappear, and you go to fucking chase it, and it faster than your eye can follow. It disappears over the horizon. Like, what do you say and do about that? Like, what could possibly benefit them to release that information to people like you and me?
Yeah. First of all, I had no douchebag policy. Everybody I know is fucking cool as shit. They're not like some ego-tripping maniacs. A lot of people think this information, the basics, should be public. And they think it's a crime that is held back.
But there's just policies in place can't violate.
Yeah, there's policies in place. And the main thing, their security clearances are their jobs, even when they're out, right? So
right.
If you lose that, even when you're out, changes your fucking life. You've had this whole career that you're doing. But people I know in these positions that have access to information, whether we believe them or not, like they're good people. I think they want this information to be public, and they think it's bigger than themselves. But that's what we're seeing. We're seeing finally representative government representing the public's interest to know about this. Now, is there anything under? Let's find out.
Do you think that them releasing information and having these discussions is their way of preparing us for the inevitable? That maybe this is the best way to do it, to get some information out there and say, we have recovered off-world crafts and we're seeing things that are not ours, and the propulsion systems are not based on any known physics or that we have a grasp of. That when they're telling us this, it's because they think that this is all it's gonna blow up in our face, and so we got to get some information out there to prepare people. Otherwise, we're gonna have a collapse of society. We're gonna have a UFO landing on the White House lawn and panic in the streets, and that they think that somehow or another they can mitigate some of the more negative aspects of that by releasing some data now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
A lot of people have said that, to me, and even said, maybe you're a part of that and don't even know, and that's why you're getting like videos and shit. And,
right.
The thing is that the reality, though, if someone could just see that, the reality is the people I know that are fighting for this inside and creating the language and trying to get this to happen, it's not organized from the diabolical, or even like, it's not even organized in a way. It's like pressure. They knew, you know what I mean? It seems so mysterious that it almost looks like Machiavellian, like they're just getting the public ready. But in fucking reality, dude, I don't think it's that organized.
That makes more sense because things aren't that organized.
It's just not. People know each other. A lot of the people kind of fighting the good fight about UFO don't even know each other, man.
Right. So they're just slowly but surely, the overwhelming amount of evidence is causing people to have these discussions and force these discussions.
That's my theory. Is we're talking about it now, and it's not fucked to talk about it now. You can have these conversations because people I favor come.
Feel like some of the stuff that you've been shown that you're not supposed to show, that it would really benefit society to release that stuff to the point where you almost feel compelled. Like how much different do you think the conversation would be about UFOs if people saw and knew what you know? Not much different, a little bit different?
No, because no one trusts, like you could have a live alien on this podcast and people would say, it could be an actual live alien.
Already Elon's been on 3 times.
I did not believe his last thing about not being interested in UFOs, by the way.
Well, I like that might have been motivated at least slightly by the fact that he smoked weed on my show and got in trouble with NASA.
Oh, don't do that.
That's what I was thinking. When he was so quickly dismissing it, well, they sure are subtle. When he was saying that, I was like, well, wouldn't they be subtle? Like, what would they be doing? Unless they're trying to freak us the fuck out. But when he smoked weed on the podcast and got in trouble with NASA, I would imagine that you'd want to show yourself as a respectable ball player. I'm here to play ball. I'm trying to get funding. I'm trying to launch my rockets. We're all on the same team, boys. I need that top secret clearance.
I'm curious if they film launches, if they have any footage of those launches being observed by what we call UAP or UFOs, because I have a pilot and he gave me footage from, he was in this lucky position during one of these launches where he was the closest in, and he gave me footage of what, like, objects like lights up observing this.
One of the SpaceX rockets?
Yeah, bro. And so the thing is, anything you shoot out of a commercial airline, like, it has to go through a process, so it's not something that, like, legally you could put out. But I am curious if Elon's company probably films the shit out of every part of those launches. Wouldn't it be interesting if these unidentifieds, whatever they are, were kind of observing us playing with these rockets?
Maybe Elon needs to strap a nuke to one of those things
and bait them. Would he tell you if
me? No,
he wouldn't tell you if they
Definitely
filmed any of
tell
those
me.
things.
Nope. Why would he?
I don't know.
I'm a pothead with a big mouth.
No, actually, you know what? You can keep a secret.
Oh yeah.
No, I've learned that. That's really cool.
I'm good at keeping secrets. When it comes to stuff like UFOs and if there was a secret that like affect mankind, and, people are gonna die, I would tell people.
Right. Real quick, let them know.
I'd be like, hey, folks, we got a problem.
There should panic. Like let's say this all goes well, and there is something under the hood with the UFO thing, and that this congressional language does bring forward people. Like, fuck, have Bob Lazar. Bob's already said everything to George in 1980. But people that have security clearances, let's pretend it goes well.
I would sit down with Bob again because I wonder what the experience has been like for Bob with the documentary coming out and then being on the podcast.
Let's grab him. Let's get him.
Let's get him back in. Would you think he'd do it again? Comfortable about the attention?
I asked him about that again for you, and Bob doesn't. He doesn't even get it that people want to still talk with him.
He doesn't get why.
He doesn't get it. Yeah, he doesn't get why people want to still talk with him.
I'm a Bob.
If we didn't even talk about UFOs, we'd have the most fun fucking conversation.
When we went to dinner with him, we had a great time.
He always tells me the craziest shit just about...
Well, he's some crazy shit that we can't talk about.
Right.
Yeah, which was wild. Which explains a lot about his education history and a lot of other things. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then, it also explains about, like, why he was chosen as...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I verified that further, by the way. So, here's the deal. I think he almost likes that he can be dismissed. What if everybody believed Bob Lazar?
Right.
How fucked would his life be?
It would be fucked. He's easily dismissed, which is kind of good sometimes. I think one of the things that was more interesting about one of the things that was interesting about your documentary was when, during the documentary, his lab got raided.
Yeah, people said, oh my God, I wanted to kill people. People said I fucking made that up I just made up the raid, like hired actors and FBI shirts. I swear to God, that was like a huge deal.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
People probably think you're in the FBI.
Oh yeah, it's so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of paranoid schizophrenics that are just running around accusing everybody of being a spy and being part of government agencies and what have you.
But isn't it just easier to dismiss what somebody says if you can just dismiss them as being genuine or honest?
Yeah. It's such a complex subject because it seems foolish to spend any time thinking about it without anything really tangible. It's like everything is speculative. Everything is he said, she said, and here's some data, and there's a thing that's going faster than the speed of sound by, a factor of 20 or something like that.
But I'll argue there's tons of evidence. There's tons of evidence. Now, there's the human intelligence side of it, which is just you talk with people that have no reply.
Yeah, but
they got multiple witnesses.
Do lie.
Tons of people.
People are crazy.
But you can sort out if 1%, right? And I'm so good at that now. You get a call, you end up talking with somebody, you fucking know almost immediately if there's an angle, if there's an agenda. Why do people do stuff? They do stuff to get... I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of information out there not public. I'm certain of it, actually, that there's a lot of information that's not public that should be. UFOs are tangible. There is a tangible aspect to them, a mechanistic machine aspect to them. The weirder question is that a performance? If something is so advanced, couldn't they make you feel, think, see, whatever they want you to
look like a tree? Yeah, couldn't they, fly through the clouds? I knew a guy who was schizophrenic, who I knew he was a little crazy, but I didn't know how crazy. And one day he shows me his phone, and he shows me these pictures of clouds, and I think I'm just looking at some cool clouds. And he goes, "See it? You see this one? You see that? You see this one?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I see them every day." I go, "What are you seeing?" He goes, "Alien spacecrafts." I go, "What?"
Yeah.
I go, "You see alien?" I go, "I see clouds." He goes, No. These are alien spacecrafts disguised as clouds." And I'm looking at him, and I'm just recognizing. I knew he had a screw loose.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how many of those guys are out there thinking they're seeing things?
I've got the cry folder in my email. Yeah, it makes me really sad, man.
Oh?
Because, like...
Schizos?
Dude, people have these incredibly painful experiences that are not UFO related. But that's a way that your mind can rationalize what's wrong with you, what's going on. And I get them all the time. And I put them over here like, probably needs medical attention, right? Luckily, there are some major universities that are quietly studying some of these biological effects.
Biologics of
close encounters. People that claim to have close encounters.
Because you're this big coast-to-coast Art Belt fan.
Right.
How much of that UFO stuff do you pay attention to? None. Yeah, me
Zero.
too.
When people contact me on LinkedIn and their major credential is they do a UFO magazine or something like that, I don't add them.
I love that stuff. I used to think it was so interesting and intriguing until
Yeah.
I started actually paying attention to it.
Yeah.
When I started interviewing some of the people that are involved in the movement, you find the same thing over and over again. This just wanton disregard for reality.
Right.
This absolute desire to prove something instead of looking at the objective facts, proving that aliens are real, proving that we've been contacted, proving
Okay.
that these eyewitness testimonies are legitimate.
Let me get across a weird idea.
Okay.
Once upon a time in the 1940s, there were two guys, Konrad Lorenz and Nico Tinbergen, who got a Nobel Prize for inventing a field called ethology, which is a certain kind of observation of animal behavior. And Nico Tinbergen would go off to the coastal cliffs around northern Europe. And he would observe these seabirds. And the seabirds would go out, I don't know how many miles, 10, 30, 40 miles out to the ocean to feed and bring back food for their young. And then they would come back at the end of the day, and their nests, they'd have 200 nests next to each other, but the nests had very low walls. So when the seabird came back from her fishing and waddled herself into place, moving her hind back and forth to get in place to incubate her chicks, to warm the eggs, she'd often knock an egg out. And when the egg was knocked out of the nest, the bird would reach her beak out past the egg and then pull her beak back in toward her chest to pull the egg toward the nest. And she'd do it over and over again until she got the egg in the nest. And Nico Tinbergen had this weird idea, I wish I knew where it came from, that this is a reflex, like when your doctor takes a hammer and hammers your knee and your leg shoots out and you had nothing to do with it. He figured this is the same kind of a reflex. And he figured that if you have a reflex, you need a trigger for the reflex, like that patellar hammer that hammered your knee. So he looked to see if there was a trigger that triggered this yanking your beak back in order to scoop the egg back into the nest. And he tried building artificial eggs to see if he could find out what the cues were in the egg that were causing this reaction in the bird. And finally, he got a super egg, which means it was bigger than the normal egg, it was browner than the normal egg, and he'd put the real egg. Now, if you're the bird, that real egg has your genetic legacy. It's your genetic future. A lot is riding on that egg, a lot of you. And the phony egg. And the phony egg would attract the bird so strongly that she would ignore her own egg and yank, yank, yank with her beak until she pulled the phony egg into the nest. Oof. And they continued to do research with this kind of thing, and they discovered that they could trick some songbirds into taking a basketball into their nest. And then when the poor little birds tried to get on top of the basketball to incubate it, they would slide off and they'd be very frustrated and they would climb back on again and slide off again.
The phony eggs like fake tits.
Those things called supernormal stimuli. And the idea is that they bring these reflexive reactions.
Yes.
Hitler was doing underlying what I was doing, dancing on that stage, underlying what you do in front of an audience when you get incandescent and lose yourself and something else talks through you. All that is related to some supernormal pattern in us.
Yes.
So Hitler was basically saying the world is about to end and the kingdom of God is coming. Except the kingdom of God, in his case, was the world will be controlled by the master race, the blonde and blue-eyed Aryans, and all other people will be slave people or will be exterminated. But it was this golden paradise was inviting the Germans to, in which they ruled the world because they were born to rule the world.
So, and how did you grab the stimulation? Super
stimulus.
So the supernormal stimulus of this artificial egg is like supernormal stimulus of this extreme behavior at the podium that attract people in.
And basically, Hitler was saying, was talking about the equivalent of extraterrestrials. He was talking about this magic quality of the Germans. He was talking about the shared soul of the Germans and how the people in Wagner operas and the gods of the old Germans had been in the souls of these people, and he was evoking the group soul, the Zeitgeist. The case is the Volkgeist, the spirit of a people. And the flying saucer people are after an end of the world in which the world will be remade. And a guy named, well, there was a Jewish kid from a backward town, a really backward town, who only had been trained in manual skills. And he started preaching. And he preached that the world was, as we know, it was about to end, and we were about to enter a new kind of paradise. And because he was Jewish, he figured it's got to happen at Passover. Because at Passover, you put out a cup for Elijah, and Elijah's there to precede the Savior, the guy who will save the Jewish people. So he went up to the holiest city in Judaism, to Jerusalem, and he had a dinner, this Passover dinner, and they put out the cup, and that's when the kingdom of God was supposed to arrive. His prediction of a kingdom of God arriving at that particular Passover ceremony turned out to be utterly wrong. And in fact, the Romans seized him and nailed him to a cross. And he died. It was the opposite of everything he'd predicted. But the religion he'd put together was, and the religion really that Paul put together, because Paul was an international figure. You know, he was comfortable in the globe world of the Roman Empire. But what Paul put together around Jesus was a supernormal stimulus. And it evoked a supernormal response, a supernormal reflex. And the flying saucer ideas that, you know, here we are on Earth, but there's this race that's above us that can save us, that's pushing at the same buttons. Hitler was pushing at the same buttons. The world, as we know, is about to end, and there's a new paradise, and the Germans will rule everything. So we are built to receive certain kind of stimuli. God knows how we got built that way. And when I went out in quest of the static of God, the gods inside of us, at the age of 13, I was looking for that supernormal, those supernormal responses in us, and for the supernormal stimuli that evoked them. And when you're doing art, when you're doing commentary, when you're doing comedy, you are hitting buttons. You are creating supernormal stimuli. You are testing out jokes until they reach just the right shape. And you know what, you can feel in the audience what that shape is, and then you repeat that shape, knowing what its impact is going to be on the audience. I wrote a new book. It took me a long time to write all of my first books, including How I Accidentally Started the 60s. And by the way, it isn't the same 1995 manuscript. I had 20 years of additional processing and was able to put a lot more meaning into the book. And hopefully it's still really funny. But I was able to write a book in 6 weeks. The first draft of 178,000 word book. And a normal book is 90,000 words. So it's almost twice the length of a normal book. And I was able to do it because I had told all the stories in the book. And I had felt out how the audiences responded to the stories. And I knew the words to use, and they were a well-worn path in my brain. So I simply put down on paper an oral vocabulary. But it's the audience who shapes you by giving you feedback. And eventually you perfect something so it's like Nico Tinbergen's super egg. I mean, Nico Tinbergen was eventually able to make eggs, super eggs, that had day glow on them, had polka dots on them, that were absurd, but they still had the ability, the way that flying saucer myths have the ability, to evoke this sense that there is a paradise beyond the world that we know.
Don't you think of supernormal stimulus that when you see, like a preacher on the pulpit that's screaming with confidence, when you see any of these things, like even when it comes to fake breasts, like you're seeing something like, you know what you want a woman to be good at bearing children, right? To have the right hip to waist ratio, that she's designed to breastfeed, she has large breasts.
Right.
Even though you know it's fake, it still hits whatever that genetic button is inside of your head.
Yep.
And the alien theme, the idea behind it, the archetype, is kind of like Space Daddy.
Right.
It's like, I know we're stupid, but just like this guy who's screaming on the pulpit has all the answers. Like, thank God someone has all the answers. Well, Space Daddy is for the atheists.
Right.
Space Daddy is for the people, you know what, I've listened to all these people down here. I think they're full of shit, but Space Daddy's going to help us out.
Yeah, what's the general idea?
Is that what it is?
Yes. And when you, as I said, when you fashion a joke, you're fashioning it to be a supernormal stimulus.
But Space Daddy might be real somewhere because we're dealing with extraordinary numbers.
Okay, science person.
Okay.
I have to tell you that there's only one place in which we've ever discovered any evidence of life, and it's here on Earth. So I'm a skeptic of being anywhere. Right. Now, changing to a different scientific perspective, there's this thing that I call super simultaneity, super synchrony. And when the universe starts as a rapidly expanding sheet of nothing but space and time. It's space, time, and speed. That's all it is. And when it precipitates in quarks, which is unlikely, how can space, time, and speed become particles, quarks?
Right.
The fact is that there are only something like 16 different forms of those quarks, and there are a gazillion of identical copies of each quark everywhere, and they all sprang into existence at the same time. Fast forward a couple of million years. Galaxies all are pretty much the same, and all of them spring into existence pretty much at the same time, at least the first generation of galaxies. Ignite within those galaxies, all following pretty much the same principles. They're all just big gravity balls. Gravity's gravity balls all the way. That's planets, that's moons, all kinds of things. So there is this tendency for the universe to do the same damn thing at pretty much the same damn time, pretty much same damned everywhere in this cosmos. And we do know that there are biomolecules, carbon-based molecules, being formed in interstellar cold gas clouds, interstellar hot gas clouds, all kinds of unlikely places in the cosmos. But those are very simple little molecules. Even though we call them biomolecules, it simply means they've got carbon. Life depends on molecules. In the case of your genome, if we took just one cell, you wouldn't miss it. You have 100 trillion others. So we took just one cell from your body, and we took out the genome, well, it's actually the genome. So we took out the genome, and we stretched it out because it's all tangled up in the cell. It would be 3 feet long. So there's a big distance between a tiny little molecule of ammonia in an interstellar cloud and that huge, very complex, highly ordered 3-foot molecule or single molecule that's your genome. And we haven't learned very much at all about how you go from the simple molecules to the incredibly complex molecules. The origin of life is still one of the big puzzles. But again, because there's super synchrony and super simultaneity all over the cosmos, pretty much the same thing happens at pretty much the same time. The odds are that there are millions of other planets that have life. Those are the odds. But I set all that aside because we don't have evidence of any life, and we've been looking since, okay, I'll tell you a story. It seems to have nothing to do with anything. But upon a time, a manager gave me an act to work with. It was Earth, Wind, and Fire. And so I read all their lyrics. I read everything about them. I studied them like a Talmudic scholar. I always did. And finally, I got to their album covers. And when I got together with the leader of the band, Maurice White, for lunch, because I hadn't yet learned to set up my boundaries and tell people I'll only work with you if I can see you in your own environment for between 1 and 3 days. That wasn't quite at that point yet. I sat with Maurice and said, if I've got you right, you believe that approximately 11,000 years ago, people from another civilization, someplace else in our galaxy or beyond our galaxy, came to this Earth and brought us all of our technologies and left the messages of their technologies in the pyramids. Have I got that right? And Maurice smiled, and he said, yes. So I said, okay, there's this scientist from Cornell University, and he has just had a tremendous success with a science series on PBS. It's the most watched series PBS has ever had. And he's trying to put together an organization to find extraterrestrial intelligence. So if I introduce the two of you, would you be willing to do a benefit concert for him? Because right now he's struggling to get money together. And Maurice said yes. So we tracked down Carl Sagan's summer cottage telephone number. And I put together a conference call between Maurice White and, oh God, what's him again? Billions and billions and billions of planets. Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
And as soon as Carl got wind of where Maurice was coming from, pseudoscience, the conversation was over, because Carl was already gambling on ideas that could get him totally laughed out of science. So it was unfortunate, but that was the early 1980s. Probably about 1980.
Didn't you sit down with Maurice and sort of explain what we know so far? Was Maurice's stuff done? Was Zacharias?
It's all kinds of. It's everywhere.
Right.
You can find it all over the place.
But did he have like a source?
Not that I asked him. No, I was too busy trying to put this thing together, and it was unfortunate. Yes, it would have been neat if the two of us had been able to sit down and talk.
Have you not watched Unacknowledged?
What is Unacknowledged?
You got to watch Unacknowledged.
What is that one?
Okay, you got to watch Unacknowledged.
What is it?
You got to watch Unacknowledged.
Is that Stephen Greer movie?
No.
It is. Yeah,
it is?
Yeah, listen to me, man.
No? No good, huh?
No. There's a fucking industry, and the industry is in people wanting to get mysteries solved. The great mystery of is there life out there? And nobody has any answers. I did this show for Sci-Fi called Joe Rogan Questions Everything, and before that show, I was a hardcore believer in a lot of wonky conspiracies, like Bigfoot and aliens. I just loved them because they seem so interesting.
I don't live in Bigfoot.
You don't live in Bigfoot?
No, I don't.
Bigfoot's the most plausible.
You think so?
Yes.
Wow, why?
Because there was an animal called a Gigantopithecus that lived alongside human beings as recently as 100,000 years ago. It was a real, absolutely real animal.
Okay.
And they've found fossilized bones in these things, and they found teeth from an apothecary shop in China. There was a real animal. It was a gigantic bipedal hominid that was somewhere around 8 to 10 feet tall. So this thing lived at the same time people did. So this is probably the reason why there's this myth of Bigfoot, that at one point in time, this was a real thing.
No, but what about that they're walking around now?
Probably.
That's what I'm saying.
Most likely not.
That was what I was saying. I mean, I'm sure it was a giant,
Yeah, but there's, a lot of people...
So tell me about aliens. Tell me about...
Most business. Most of it is business.
What about the Air Force general that said... did that tape, gave it to his wife, and said, "Don't put this out until I'm dead"? Did you not feel as though when he was speaking, any of that was real? You've seen that, right?
I think too.
You seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. I've seen a lot of those
There's
people.
one
There's
in particular.
There's a lot of former military people that say they've seen crazy things, and it's entirely possible that they really did. It's entirely possible, but it's also possible that they're crazy. It's possible that they love attention. It's possible that they're bored. It's possible that they're schizophrenic. It's possible that they have memories that they've concocted over the years and enhanced, and it's gotten them attention, and it's putting them in documentaries, and it gets them interviews on television programs.
Right.
But that there's no evidence, and the problem with all these people is they all have this same feeling about them, and they're not. There's very few of them that come across as rational and objective. Most of them come across as there's something wrong. There's wires that aren't connecting. If you talk to them about other things in life, like if you had a chance to talk to them for a long period of time, sit down with them for 3 hours, ask them about ghosts and psychics and all kinds of other shit. They almost all believe in that stuff. They're believers.
Yeah.
They want to believe in nonsense.
As soon as that crops up, I'm out of the room.
But it's possible. I mean, not just possible. It's 100% likely that there's alien life out there. Likely.
100%. I'm glad you said that. You kind of scared me for a second.
No, I think it's more likely.
I just love that movie because it kind of had a nice thread through it.
That movie horseshit.
Okay.
There's a lot of those movies that are horseshit. And that guy, he knows some of that's horseshit. Like there's a little baby that they had found that's an aborted fetus. They were trying to pass that off as an alien baby for a long time. But they have genome tests.
You don't believe that we're hybrids?
No.
What do you
hybrids.
Can you tell me about the link between monkeys and us? Seriously.
Well,
between the two frontal lobes and the brain of the monkey.
We are hominids. I mean, we are primates, and we're just the most advanced primate. The real question is, how did we get to be so much more advanced?
That's what I asked you.
Well, it's more likely that we found fire and our diet changed and hunting, and then the stoned ape theory, which is a very fascinating theory. The stoned ape theory is Terence McKenna's theory that human beings found psilocybin mushrooms, and that through the use of psilocybin mushrooms, which in low doses increases visual acuity, produces these ecstatic states, that it might have helped us develop language and communication and creativity, and that this in turn was the reason why the human brain doubled in size over a period of 2 million years, which is the greatest mystery in the history of the fossil record. They don't know why they did it, but there's a very clear path.
So then you do believe we were here a million years ago? Hominids?
Some form of primate was certainly here millions of years ago, as was deer. Deer were here millions of years ago. There's a lot of animals.
Didn't interrupt you, please.
No, it's okay. I don't know.
I feel that. I feel like, you know, just because there was an ice age, it was how many 100,000 years was the ice age?
Well, a bunch of ice ages, but the most recent one ended somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 years ago.
That was
nothing. Yeah.
From beginning to end. We don't know what caused it.
Well, when the age exists, we have to remember that some parts of the world aren't experiencing the ice age, and then humans thrived in Africa during parts of the ice age. I mean, there's a lot of human beings that live all over the world. The real question is, where did they start? Most likely from Africa, but they could have possibly started from some other places too. And we're starting to learn that.
Well, that's
but the people that are learning that,
thing, right?
the people that are learning, no, not really.
Why?
Well, I mean, there's that too, but I mean, mostly just people traveling. But what you really learn from is archaeologists. Those are the people you learn from, and biologists, people that really understand the human genome. They really understand the differences between people that emerge from China versus people that emerge from Western Europe versus people that emerge from or Native Americans. I mean, there's so many different types of human beings that came from different climates, and that their bodies evolved from these places. And there's real science to that. You're not going to get that from these goofy fucking documentaries. These goofy fucking documentaries are basically a business. And the business is there's a bunch of people out there that want to know the answers. What is the truth? And so you get, I was aboard the secret UFO. I saw the magnetic controller that makes us travel through the cosmos and bend time and space. It's like a wormhole. And they'll say a bunch of sciencey sounding shit, but there's no evidence. There's nothing. When they talk about it, there's nothing.
What's David Wilcock? You know David? No. Again? Really?
That guy says that he is the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. Do you know that? Did you know that?
Yeah, I've heard.
Do you know Edgar Cayce?
Yeah, of course.
Famous kick who never really fit anything.
Understood.
And thought to be a fraud, most widely by scientists and skeptics.
Drinking laudanum.
Laudanum? Is that what he did?
Don't you think?
I don't know. I don't know what
everything
he did.
was written and everybody was stoned.
Well, I think
when you talk about the psychedelic, psilocybin mushrooms, opiates, laudanum, the last 100 years.
How do you say it? Laudanum?
Laudanum. Everyone was drinking that shit.
Yeah. Right.
But look,
Yeah.
There's
that shit was in that.
Japanese. They never left the island. Do a lot of Japanese have the same eyes shapes?
Yes, they do.
Is there a reason?
Well, there's a reason why.
They didn't leave the island and come back after mating with anybody else.
So
they stayed on that body of land.
Do you think they're from aliens?
No, absolutely not. It's just that they stayed on that plot of land.
Sure. But wouldn't you agree a lot of people from Asia look fairly similar?
Yeah, I do.
But they were similar, right?
But I think it took millions of years. That's my take. Look, I can't prove anything.
No, they do believe it took millions of
years.
years.
They always finish stuff by saying, I didn't see it.
Right.
When I go out at night, Maui, and walk around, I'm dying to see UFO.
Me too.
So are you. Because
Everybody
the second I see one, the second.
Right.
That will make clear shit like, the song I wrote called Back When Cain Was Able, way before it's about a mothership and shit. Way before I knew anything about UFOs.
Did you ever see him when you did psychedelics? When you did drugs, whether you did mushrooms
I never
or acid?
saw anything that wasn't there.
For sure?
I'm not that kind of people.
No.
I'm not the kind of people.
Some people have, though, and the idea is that there are things that are out there in neighboring dimensions that you're really not capable of accessing them.
Yeah.
That's where the real aliens live.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, but I just know that all these people that are pushing it, they all have, there's fuckery involved in all these people.
No,
that's a real problem.
I hear you.
Because it's fun. It's fun. You want to believe, right? You want to believe that there's a general out there that's seen the spaceship that's under the mountain. Tell me about it, Mr. General. And he goes on a lecture tour, and you got to pay money to see him, and he's in a documentary, and there's a lot of those people out there, man. And
I live with it. Backstage with Joe Perry, what'd you do? Yes, you know, my whole life.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. The wow of the thrill of the story. But, you know,
People love to...
it says, you know what, they still haven't found that missing link. That between...
If you talk biologists,
and
they
how
say
the apes stood up because they're
they
walking
do.
through
They
the
have, but they
savannas.
have Australopithecus fossils. They have the things that were like us that are different from a long fucking time ago. They have those.
And the size of the brain?
Yeah,
Frontal
the
lobes?
brain changed. It doubled over a period of 2 million years. I mean, that did happen. But they know what we used to be. There are simple hominids that were, or rather ancient hominids, that are very similar to human beings, and they slowly became human beings. And there's also, they keep finding all these different versions of human beings. Like there wasn't just Homo sapiens, and of course there's Neanderthals, but there was the one from Russia. What was that called? That was in that book, Hominid. What is that? I can't remember though. It starts with a D, but it's a one that they found very recently. Very recently. You find it, Jamie? Yeah. Here it is. Denisovan hominin, an extinct species of subspecies of archaic humans. They found it in the 1970s by the Russian paleontologist Nikolai Oldov. So there's been a bunch of different forms of humans. We're just the most successful form of human. The idea that it's just alien DNA connected with people, it's sexy. It sounds fun, but there's no evidence.
I hear you. Is that what we are as humans?
Well, we are mutations. We are an ancient thing that slowly figured its way out. We became better at seeing things. We became better at hunting. We became better at harnessing fire.
Where do you think free...
There's a lot of people that don't even believe it's real. They believe in determinism. They don't even believe that free will is an actual thing. I mean, I've heard Sam Harris argue it pretty successfully, that there is no such thing as free will, that you are an accumulation of your genetics, your life experiences, all the things that have happened to you, the people that you've come in contact with.
That's true. Behavioral.
And that forms...
Behavioral psychology, that's
your
true.
behavior. Think about your behavior.
Yeah.
And how much of your behavior is shaped by millions of adoring fans and people screaming and cheering you on and singing songs that move people and literally change generations, give people goosebumps when they hear them. I mean, all that stuff has shaped who you are. I mean, all that stuff changes who a person is. And who you are now and the way you behave now is in many ways shaped by your life experiences as much as it is by your genetics. And you wouldn't be this person if you hadn't lived that life. And the decisions that you make from this moment on, right now, leave the studio and have a conversation with someone, will be shaped, at least in part, by this conversation. And mine will be by my conversation with you. This is what the idea behind determinism.
Okay, so I would ask, who said this? Who was into this?
There's many people that come up with this concept, but I've heard it. It was really argued to me by Sam Harris the most successfully.
Wow, interesting. I just wonder why then, you know, certain monkeys, certain breeds of monkeys, smart ones, bonobos, I love them because I'm a bonobo, but have, you know, they'll put a stick in something and pull out shillogy, but, you know.
Well, that's also...
They haven't well, wait a minute now, then. They haven't gone past that. So.
Well, do you know pathologists actually believe that chimpanzees have entered the Stone Age? This is one thing that's being considered now, that they've started the use of tools on a regular basis.
Okay.
They think that they're learning from each other, and they think that if they are evolving, right, and if human beings evolved over a period of millions of years, we are actually watching chimpanzees evolve in real time.
Well, I think so too.
A long process that'll take millions of years, but they have entered the Stone Age. So they think that, who knows, with a series of mutations, with natural selection, with a bunch of different things happening, what a chimpanzee is today, most likely it will be a different thing in 2 million years.
Of course it will.
Yeah. And
I totally agree on that.
Right. That these intelligent animals, they're going to experiment with things. Here it is. Macaques often use stone tools.
Sure
Monkeys
they
have
do.
been living in the Stone Age for 50 years. So for 50 years, these animals, just 50, okay?
I'm not sure about that. That's when somebody first saw them using the stone.
Well, in terms of primatologists observing behavior. So these archaeologists have uncovered stone tools they believe these animals have used. So,
or other humans.
Yeah, or other humans.
Because you can't
other
figure
primates.
stone out.
Right.
Now, when you look, what do you think about... Look up and I don't know the answers. That's why I got my girls.
Well, I definitely don't know.
But
Remember, I just said I just repeat shit smart people have figured out.
Bones that are cut up in, not Machu Picchu, but up in wherever.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Those, the laser cuts. And it's like,
well, not laser, but very precise cuts. Yeah.
Whoever it was.
Advanced civilizations that have been wiped out by cataclysms.
And that's what so my mind goes to, fuck yeah, we were here.
Something
we went
was
underground.
Here.
There's places, I saw movies of it, where you go into the mountain, you go back 3 miles in the mountain.
Right.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, there
the caves,
are. Yeah, there's incredible cave
3
systems.
fucking miles back.
But there's natural cave systems.
Giant rooms like this in there.
There's natural systems in Texas that go back miles into the mountains.
So
the hills, I should say.
That's where my head goes with this. Ghosts, come on. That's your own fear.
I don't know. You know where you're talking about Muscle Shoals?
Yeah.
The feeling in that room? Mm-hmm. There might be a similar feeling when a violent encounter happens in a house. Mm-hmm. That might be what a ghost is. What a ghost is might be this thing that you can't capture, you can't put it in a box, you can't weigh it on a scale, but you get a feeling when you're in a place where something horrible happened and you can feel it. It's not impossible to imagine that that's the case. And Rupert Sheldrake was the guy that I told you believed that, and he's a scientist, and some people would argue against it, but that he believes that things have memory, and that it's possible that even this table has memory. All the people that have sat where you sat.
I think it's got a vibe. Not sure if it's memory. You know what's got memory? Water. Nobody knows about that yet. Water.
Right.
Because it never goes anywhere. You can never get rid of water.
It's true.
You can boil it, steam it, it goes up, it comes back down. So I think when they find out the memory in water, I also got to tell you,